Hi, I'm Kristen, and I'm here to give you an introduction to database and reporting functionality in TestStand. In this video, I'll show you how to customize a TestStand report and also how to enable database logging and then view that data in a database viewer. Database and reporting functionality in TestStand can be broken down into two steps. First, we have result collection. So TestStand collects all of the variables that you want to include in your test report or your database into something called the result list, which it stores in memory. What TestStand is going to pull into that result list depends on the step type. So for example, for a pass-fail step, I obviously want to record that pass-fail value, so that will be collected into my result list. You do have the option to manually select what you want to include in that result list. Once those results are in the result list, the next step is to push that to a report or database. That step is called result processing. TestStand results processing is built on a plugin architecture. I can enable more than one plugin at the same time and send my test results to an XML report as well as to a database. I even have the ability to customize and write my own plugin if so desired. Let's take a look at report generation in TestStand. So here I have open an example sequence, my mobile device test sequence, and I'm going to go ahead and run this, simulate my tests, and generate a simple test report. By default, we'll be using the HTML format. If we take a look at this report, note that my station header information and the description of my steps are in black and white, with my status data in a green for a done or a passed, and I would see red for a failure. I also have my test limits included in this report for my numeric limit test steps. Now let's make some changes. I can modify what my report looks like in the result processing dialog box. At first glance, I can see what plugins I have enabled. So for example, I have my report plugin enabled, and I'm generating in HTML 5.0. I can configure the options of a particular plugin. So for my reporting plugin, let's say I want to uncheck this include test limits. That means when we look at the report, we shouldn't see those test limits that we saw before. Let's also change the format to something different. Let's pick HTML. I'll restart my execution, and we should see some differences in my test report. Right away, we can see some colors denoting my different steps. And if I scroll down to some of my additional test steps, we can see that I'm no longer logging those particular test limits. I'm simply recording the measurement values. Now let's go ahead and send those same results to a database. So again, I'll go to my results processing dialog box, and this time I'm going to enable the database plugin that comes with TestStand. For this, I'm simply going to use our generic record set database that ships with TestStand and installs in the TestStand installation directory. So I'll go ahead and configure some options for this database. Let's say I want to disclude my test limits again. And maybe this time I'll select on-the-fly logging. On-the-fly is an option that TestStand provides, which ensures that your test data is logged to whatever reports or databases you have enabled during execution, rather than waiting until the end of execution. This can be useful for extremely long or memory-intensive tests where you might want to save that data before the test completes. I'll go ahead and build my database, test the connection, and I'm ready to log some test results. Notice that I had both the report and database plugins enabled. So when this execution completes, I can expect to see my HTML report in the sequence editor, as well as see my test data in my TestStand database. So we can see the HTML report in the TestStand sequence editor, and now let's go take a look at our database. I'll open up the TestStand Database Viewer, which is a tool that ships with TestStand and allows you to visualize your database data. I'll open up the database that we just logged to, and then I'll select to view my UUT data. And we can see I've got some information on my execution, and I don't have my test limits included. In this video, I've introduced you to the concepts of result collection and results processing in TestStand. We looked at an easy example of how to enable and customize report generation and database logging with TestStand. To learn more about TestStand, go to ni.com/TestStand.